I'm back again to help answer everyone's burning questions, and in today's topic, one of the most frequently asked questions, and that is, how frequently or can I even have a cheat meal on a low carb or keto way of eating? Hey everyone, it's Dennis, your Low Carb Nation coach, back with another quick video. So I'm not going to answer this with a yes or a no, right? But I'm going to give you several factors that you should consider before you have a cheat meal. Alright, so let's delve right into it. So factor number one I want you to consider is that the idea of cheat meal itself. So the word already has a negative connotation to it, right? Why do people want to resort to a cheat meal, right? For most diets, it is restrictive. That's why they resort to a cheat meal. Let's say, for example, of the 6 days of the week, you've been nice and you've been following a diet plan, right? You've been restricting your food intake, certain foods that you avoid. Then because you've been nice to yourself, on day number 7, you decide to reward your actions with a cheat meal, right? So let's talk about why that's not sustainable, right? That way of thinking is not sustainable because of that 6 days of the week, you are restricting. You are restricting yourself, right? You have a limiting mindset, limiting certain foods. But on a low carb or ketogenic way of eating, we never want to have that kind of mentality, right? So with our clients, we always want to make sure that they are eating in a way that is sustainable, that they can adhere to, right? That they can follow through for not just 7 days, but for like months and months after that, all right? So it's time to switch up that mindset and move away from that dieting mentality kind of mindset. All right, so no more limitation. You're eating nutrient-dense foods 7 days of the week for like several weeks. All right, so make sure that you find a way that's enjoyable, that you can adhere to, and that's sustainable. All right. Factor number 2 I want you to consider is that when you're new to a ketogenic way of eating, it takes time to become fat adapted. So what does that mean? You come from a background of carbohydrate fuel. You're fueled by glucose, carbohydrates, and now the idea of being on a low carb or ketogenic way of eating is to switch a carbohydrate burner to a fat burner, right? So that takes time, right? For some people, it can be as short as 5 days. For some people, it can be as long as 2 weeks. So if you're reintroducing carbohydrates too soon into your new low carb lifestyle, you're gonna set yourself back, right? You're gonna reset yourself back to day 0, or even worse than day 0, let's say if you really go crazy on the carbohydrates, right? So that's factor number 2 I want you to consider. Factor number 3 that I want you to think about is that a lot of people that come from a background of obesity or let's say type 2 diabetes, they are coming from a carb addiction, right? So almost everyone who is a diabetes or type 2 diabetes or who is obese, they have an issue with carbohydrate addiction. Right, so if you've gone well into a low carb lifestyle and you suddenly introduce carbohydrates into your diet, it might trigger recessed memory and you might go crazy on the carbs, because it triggers the excitement part of your brain, right? So that's what carbohydrate does, and you might go back to your old ways after that, right? So that's 3 things I want you to consider. Let's recap. Number 1 is don't have a restricting mindset. Right, you're eating nutrient-dense food in a low-carb lifestyle, right? So you are not restricting of the entire week. You are eating nutrient-dense. You're rewarding your body with the right tools it needs to fix itself, right? So number 2, it takes your body time to become fat adapted. So you gotta stick to it before you introduce any sort of carbohydrates back into your diet. Number 3 is remember. People who come from a background of obesity and diabetes have an issue with carb addiction. All right, so I'm not going to go too much into this, but reintroducing carbohydrates into your diet, that might be catastrophic. All right, so I hope this information has been useful, and that if you found it useful, feel free to forward it to a friend. And if you want to know more about what we do at Low Carb Nation, make sure to check out the link in our bio, and I'll see you guys in the next one.